Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Dr. Mumtaz and I've recently started working as junior specialist in the NHS. I also make videos on Plab and USMLE. So let's get started with another video. In this video, we'll be talking about the most requested topic, which is planning for Plab 2. We'll be covering everything, starting from the visa process, what kind of visa is important and all that, the academies, whether any academy is required or not, if so, which academy, the accommodation while in the UK while you're preparing for the exam, and what to do after that, and also the expense. So without further ado, let's get started. It's going to be a long video, guys. So go get some popcorn, a pen, a notebook. Actually, you can just take a screenshot of the video, whatever. So let's just get started. सबसे पहले तो वीजा का इशू एड्रेस करते हैं, ठीक है. When you're going to give a Plab 2 exam, it is something that you have to only and only appear in the UK. You cannot appear for this exam in your home country. So you'll have to apply for a visa. Now, what kind of visa? So most students go for the standard visitor visa, and the reason that they give while requesting for the visa is Plab 2 exam. The standard visitor visa is valid for single visit, 6 months. And you can sit for the exam, but you cannot do any paid work during this time. In case you have to go back to your home country or come visit the UK again, in that case, you won't be able to do it on the same visa and you'll have to reapply for the visa. So this is not the visa that I applied for. I mean, standard visitor visa is what I applied for, but the reason that I gave for my visa was a little different. शुरू से शुरू करते हैं. So I started applying. I applied for the UK visa before my Plab journey. Like when I was planning to start my Plab journey, that's when I applied for the visa. I applied for a normal visitor visa, but it was multi-visit visa, which was valid for 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. I took the 10-year option because I just wanted to travel the country more. But you do have options like 2 years, 5 years. And you can see the prices, the price difference of applying for a 2-year visa or a 5-year or a 10-year visitor visa on the screen. Now let's discuss its pros and cons. The pros are that, first of all, you can enter the country as many times as you want. If anything goes wrong, you know that you won't have to go through the whole visa process again. Because it's multi-visit, you can be a little flexible. You don't have to plan the preparation time, the Plab 2 exam, and clinical attachments in one go. You can first visit the country once and focus completely on Plab 2 exam. In the meanwhile, you can get an idea about the nearby hospitals, which hospitals are IMG friendly, and so you can just apply for clinical attachments in those hospitals so that they can accept you, they can give you a job right after your clinical attachment. And even if you get a clinical attachment at a later date, it's not a problem for you because you can always visit the country, you can always stay for a longer time, right? Also, when in your mail for the clinical attachment, when you mention that you have a visa which is valid for 10 years, 2 years, or any of this period, it kind of makes them know that, okay, you're not dependent on them for this particular visit. You already have a visa and you're anyway free to enter the country. So getting a clinical attachment becomes easier that way. Now let's discuss the cons. The most important thing is money. Now, when you're applying for a visa with extended validity, it does come with an extra cost. But if the bank balance is not an issue for you, then go for visa with at least 2 years of validity, just to be on the safer side. Second, you have to plan well in advance, because when you have, as you know, if you have booked a Plab 2 date, you cannot wait for this particular type of visa and cannot state visiting the country as one of the reasons. There's a high chance that you'll get denied that way. So if you are somebody who's just starting your Plab preparation, who's planning to give Plab 1 soon, it'll be a good idea to apply for a UK visa now, maybe on a visitor basis. The only thing I guess that I want to say here is that plan well in advance, and standard visitor visa is the visa that you require for Plab 2. Now, the validity and all that depends on you. And if you have booked a Plab 2 date and if it is within this 3 months or 6 months time, then please go on a priority visa because you really can't afford those visa delays, right? Or they are, because I had to wait for 40 days to get my visa. So don't let that be the case with you. If you are somebody who who has already booked a Plab 2 date, then please, by all means, prioritize your visa. Alright, now let's talk about the academies available for Plab 2. So I'm sure you must have come across a lot of academies when you're going to Plab 2 preparation. In this video, we'll be specially talking about what are your options with regards to the academies, what are the expense of preparing through these academies, whether you should actually go for an academy. We'll be discussing the pros and cons of these academies. And we'll also be talking about the mocks. And lastly, I'll be sharing my experience related to these academies, whether I went for it and what all did I do that made me pass the exam in my first attempt. Moving on, so the first thing being, what are the options? Now, the famous academies that I'm sure you must have come across would be Aspire, Samson, Swami's classes, Moshobi Academy, and many more. I mean, these are the famous ones. And I'm sure you must be struggling to pick one of these academies, but don't worry, it's drill to the rescue. Let's begin by discussing the general idea behind these academies. The way they treat patients here in the UK, it's very different from what we do back home. Here, it's more about making the patient comfortable with or without treatment, instead of treating his symptoms with or without comfort. So Plab 2 is a game of empathy, sympathy, and this concept is fed very well to you when you join any of these academies. They'll teach you all about how to be an active listener, how to talk to patients in a polite way, and take decisions related to his treatment, all of it in 8 minutes. So you will get an idea about the system, and you'll also get an idea about how to manage time, which is, I think, the most essential part when it comes to Plab 2 exam and Plab 2 preparation. While all this is important, would you really want to pay £650, which is an Indian equivalent of 65,000 rupees for a 12-day class? So let's go through the pros and cons of the course, of this 12-day course. The pros are, apart from what I said, when you apply for this course, you not only get access to their 12-day lectures, you also get access to the Simon, the mannequins. This is particularly something that you cannot practice back home because you need the mannequins, you need the Simon for your emergency scenarios. The second pro is that when you're attending the lectures in these academies, you'll come across many students who are in the same boat as you. You'll meet people who are in their Plab journey, in different phases of their Plab journey. There will be people who will be preparing for Plab 2 exam, like you guys. There will be people who would have passed their Plab 2 exam and would be working on their CVs and preparing for their NHS interviews. If you are lucky enough, you can also come across people who could get job in NHS, and you can always interact with them to find out about what it is like working in the NHS hospitals, right? So you will actually get an idea about what you're working towards. Of course, you want to work in the NHS, but you will get an idea about how difficult it is going to be, not just the Plab 2 exam, but even the journey after that, right? You'll also come across people who would have failed their Plab 2 exam in the first attempt. So you can also learn from them about the mistakes they might have done so that you don't do it in your exam. And the most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, in a very different country, loneliness can be a big problem. The students that you'll meet here will become a part of your journey. They'll be your support, they'll be your strength at times when you just need somebody to talk to. You will make bonds that you will cherish for the rest of your life. That I'm sure of. I think that is a very important pro when it comes to these academies. They give that sense of collectiveness as a Plab 2 student or as a Plab 2 aspirant. Now let's discuss the cons. When you're studying in these academies, you become a student more than a doctor. Most of these academies have a list of cases that they need you to prepare from, and everything is in the form of scripts. So if you're not careful enough, after reading the whole book, you will find yourself repeating the same lines as your roommate while talking to a patient. You will lose your individuality as a doctor while talking to a patient because you are saying the same lines that your roommate, that the other person is saying as a doctor. If this is what NHS needed, they could have hired robots for that. They need personal touch when talking to patients. That's why they're taking the exam. So be very careful of that. Therefore, be very careful when it comes to reading these notes. By all means, go through the cases, read about the cases, know how to talk to a patient, get to learn about the importance of patient confidentiality and how to be polite and all that. But please don't mug up the lines in these scripts. You will lose your individuality as a doctor and might end up failing the exam. So don't do that, okay? The second, as I've mentioned earlier, is the cost. And most of these academies cost around £650 for the 12-day lecture. If 5 people apply through, at the same time, you can, I think, get it for 50,000, £500, which is an equivalent of 50,000 Indian national rupees and around 1 lakh Pakistani rupees. So it is a big amount, no doubt. But all this being said, if you do join an academy, please take full advantage of it. Don't just go for the online lectures. Please attend offline lectures. Go to UK well in advance. Attend the offline lectures, and most importantly, practice with as many people as you can, as many students as you can. Every student will teach you something about your consultation. When you practice with one person, you will get an idea about what is missing from your consultation. So learn from them, not just from the books. Lastly, let me share my experience of the Plab 2 exam, what I did, how I prepared for the exam. I joined Aspire Academy and I did not focus on the online lectures because, well, the online lectures were boring. In all of these academies, it's online. It's not that interesting. But I went to the UK well in advance. I went about 2.5 months before the exam, and so for me, taking the Plab 2 exam was more like visiting the country, having fun, and at the same time preparing for the exam. I got serious during the last 1 month, but when you are not really focusing on the exam, it kind of takes the stress away. I think that worked for me, but I got to learn the most by practicing with the students there. That's how I learned to manage my time. And the review that those students gave was very important to me because they were doctors as well. So they knew what I was missing as a doctor. Do not limit yourself to one academy. I remember practicing with one of the librarians in the library which was close to my institute, and it was just like talking to a British patient. He was my first mock British patient, and when you interact with such people, you'll get to know a lot about your consultation, and you'll yourself notice few things here and there that you can change that can just add to the overall beauty of your consultation. Also, let's talk about mocks. I don't know if this is something that you have come across, but please, by all means, whether you join these academies or not, please attend mocks, because these Plab 2 mocks cost around 50 to 70 pounds per mock. I have attended multiple mocks. I gave online mocks, Moshobi mocks, which was offline. I have given Aspire mocks, and in each of these mocks, you will find that the patient population is a little different. There you'll be compared against the candidates who are not reading the same books that you are. So you will get an opportunity to retain back the individuality that you lost while preparing for these academies. After taking my first mock, I spent the last 15 days, unlearning everything that I had learned in these academies. Not because they taught something wrong, not at all, but because I had earlier focused on the lines. So I was trying to be polite in a very bookish manner. And that is not something that you want when you're talking to a patient. You want your originality. You want your individuality. I don't know why I keep saying that, but you want your consultation to look original. Let's talk about the preparation time for Plab 2 exam. First of all, ये कोई topic नहीं होती बात करने की. It completely varies as per the person you are, how familiar you are, how up to date you are with the NHS system. All that matters. Don't think about what is a good time. If you're somebody who wants to give it their best, by all means take 3 months. But I have seen people qualify in 15 days with 15 days of preparation, and I have seen people fail even after 4 months of preparation. So it's completely a subjective exam, and just give it your all. And now let's talk about the accommodation. Plab 2 exams are held only in Manchester. A good idea would be to book a hotel near the place where the examination is held. Is kind of an expensive area. So you will find a hotel with a rate of, I don't know, 80 to 100 pounds per day. That is the general rate. Now, there are academies which are in Manchester. So, Aspire Academies in Manchester, Swami Academy is near Manchester. So these academies give you the benefit of being near to the examination center, so that you don't have to travel a lot on your examination day. Find accommodations, the right accommodation for you through apps like Spare Rooms. Most of these academies also have the availability of accommodations. There are certain accommodations that they have selected for the students like you, so you can always consult them about your examination date and when you're expected to come to UK, and ask them about the accommodation. So let's compare the overall expense of this exam. While your Plab 1 exam must have cost around 250 pounds, Plab 2 exam cost about 4 times of the Plab 1 exam, which is somewhere around 900 to 1000 pounds. I think bookings after 1st April 2023 will cost around £934, somewhere between 930 to 940 pounds. So of course it's an expensive exam, and when you're paying 650 extra pounds, so 65,000 for academies, it is a good idea to go through the options, see what would be the most feasible for you. One mistake that most of the people, many candidates commit while going for the academies is they go for the best academy and don't think about what will suit them best, because they are academy by Egyptian people, there is academies by Indian people, and when you're preparing for an exam, you don't want to go through the difficulty of understanding the language as well. So first, prepare for the exam with whichever academy you think you will be able to adjust well, because when you're going to a new country, you don't want to spend those few days before your preparation adjusting to the crowd. Don't do that, okay? Fine. If you found this video helpful, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. I'll see you guys in my next video. Good luck.